Foolish Couple.
I'm Andrew.
And I am Minna, founders of the Foco Academy, functional nutrition specialists and life coaches. We help people achieve whole life success by applying the success principles to the 3 areas of life that money can't buy. That is health, time, and love relationships. Now, talking about health, unless you've been living under a rock, chances are that you have at least heard about the COVID-19. And most likely, your life has somehow been impacted by this latest strain of the coronavirus. Now for us, we're on day 4 of our shelter-in-place order, which basically means we're supposed to stay home all day. Now when you go out to stock up so that you can stay at home, you may have noticed that you have trouble buying toilet paper. Why toilet paper? I don't really know for sure, but from what some psychologists are saying, it is because we want to feel like we're doing something that would be helpful for us preventing the virus. And toilet paper, well, it's kind of cheap and it lasts for a long time and eventually you will use it up anyways. But let's step back a little bit. This pandemic is putting us into a fight or flight mode. That is exactly what the media loves. The more panic or defensive we become, the more we're glued to the latest news and updates. But high stress levels essentially raises our cortisol levels, which is bad for our immune systems. So just try to chill as much as you can. Now in the next few weeks, we're going to produce a series of mini episodes on how to boost your health, immunity, and mindset in these crazy times, especially for those that are at high risk for the COVID-19, such as the older generation, and those that are immunocompromised. Yes, the virus can be fatal, but not to everybody. This isn't zombie apocalypse. The fact is, most people that actually caught the virus do recover. So unless you're in the high-risk category, you might be okay. Now, I know what you're thinking. The older you are, the higher risk you are. Well, that is statistically true. Your age is not the root cause. The strength of our immune system doesn't automatically go down with age. And if that's the age, then all the older COVID-19 patients would have passed away. But that's not the case. Latest statistics in US show that 40% who are infected are between 19 and 40 years old. So what is it that makes a person more or less likely to be affected by the virus?
There are actually many factors that affect your immune system, and quite honestly, age actually isn't one of them. If I have to put one word to the cause of why your immune system deteriorates over time, that one word would be lifestyle. Your lifestyle directly affects our health. For example, parents have been telling the young kids that eating too much candy would rot their teeth. Eating candy is a lifestyle choice. What they don't tell their kids is that eating candy may also cause them to be diabetic later in their lives.
I actually do remember that as a kid, I loved to eat candy. And my grandmother would actually encourage me to eat candy. In her words, it's okay for me, a kid, to eat the candy because I can handle it. But it's not okay for adults to eat the candy. For some reason, they think that children have high metabolism and that's all that matters. But that's not the case, is it?
Kids may have higher metabolism, but it actually doesn't mean that they should be eating the processed carbohydrates and refined sugars. The problem is you get instant gratification now by eating that piece of candy. But it may lead to worse sugar cravings in the future that may lead to chronic problems years from now. And because the punishment is delayed, by human nature, we tend to ignore it until we can't ignore it anymore.
I know that at some point, a couple years ago, I was actually pre-diabetic myself. Now my doctor said it was too early to prescribe me medication and there's nothing she could do for me. Her recommendation was to go back and see her when I actually become diabetic. Now for me, that was enough for me to change my lifestyle and really learn to study what I eat and how it impacts my health. But I do realize that for many people, they would really just do nothing about their blood sugar levels until they become diabetic and can get medication from the doctors. But it isn't that simple, is it?
Well, that's the problem. People rely too much on their doctors for their health. What they don't understand is that doctors are responsible for sick care and not preventative care. They are great for acute conditions, dealing with trauma and prescribing medicine, but they don't have the time nor the training for preventative care and nutrition. Treating diabetes is not as simple as taking a pill, and the consequences can be actually fatal. Take the latest COVID-19 for instance. This virus can infect anybody, but those with diabetes or any other chronic condition that are infected has a much higher fatality rate. If you have a chronic condition and you are in your 20s to 50s, you are actually at the same risk as a sickly 80-year-old. My own brother, who had been on diabetes medication for the last 20 years, what he didn't realize was that his diabetes would eventually cause severe damage to his kidneys and give him high blood pressure. And because he's diabetic, he's at a much higher risk now, and he really needs to be extra careful so he doesn't get infected or he can get really, really sick.
So let me clarify. It's not your age that makes you more vulnerable to the virus, actually any virus. The fact is that chronic diseases increase your risk regardless of your age, and diseases such as diabetes, and it takes time to develop inside your body. It's not like a poison from a pufferfish that kills you right away. It is a slow poison that slowly makes you sick and eventually kills you. So can you expand more on how chronic conditions raises your risk?
Well, when you have a chronic condition or disease, which includes diabetes, cancer, heart problems, asthma, high blood pressure, celiac, Crohn's, Hashimoto's, obesity, prediabetes, skin problems such as eczema and psoriasis, anxiety, depression, dementia, Parkinson's. It's a long list, but you are immunocompromised.
What does immunocompromised mean? I hear that term being floated around lately by the CDC and health officials, and how being immunocompromised raises your risk of infection and death with the COVID-19.
Immunocompromised means that your immune system is compromised. Pretty obvious, right? Chronic diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, and all the many others I just talked about causes inflammation inside your body. And since your body is constantly fighting this inflammation inside your body, it lowers down your immune system, giving you less resources to fight off any other infections such as the COVID-19. Now, if you're diabetic or even pre-diabetic, your blood sugar levels are extremely high, which suppresses the production of your white blood cells. Your white blood cells are like little Pac-Man that attack all the foreign intruders inside your body. They are like your body's innate ability to protect itself. Also, diabetes causes worse blood circulation, which lowers the number of white blood cells that can circulate inside your body, of course, to protect you. Diabetes over time causes damage to your kidneys and overtaxes your liver, the two organs that help fight toxins inside your body and can lead to gut problems, which is also part of your immune system.
So it sounds like it is important to know if you have a chronic condition or disease, as that will lead to a lower compromised immune system, putting you at higher risk for the COVID-19 regardless of your age. Now, is this something most people should be worried about? How many people actually have chronic conditions in the US, and how would they know if they're even developing chronic conditions?
Well, this is a very interesting statistic. According to the CDC, 6 out of every 10 adults in the United States have chronic condition, and 4 out of 10 actually has 2 or more chronic conditions or diseases. What that means is 60% of the US population is at risk of getting the COVID-19 regardless of how old you are. Let that sink in. 60% of the US population is at risk. The scariest thing is that most of this 60% either don't know they have a chronic condition, or they have it and they haven't done anything about it in the past.
Yeah, that is so true. My mother has signs of dementia and Alzheimer's, and she blames that on genetics and old age because her dad, my grandfather, also had Alzheimer's. Now, I hear all the time that your brother that has diabetes is blaming it on his genes because his mother also had it. So if it is in your genetics, are you doomed to have that chronic disease?
Well, really, it's just an excuse that people make to blame on conditions of their health. It's just so much easier to blame someone else. Your health is not predetermined by your genetics alone. Your genetics are only one of three parts that determine how healthy you actually are. Genes actually only account for about 20% towards you getting a chronic condition such as diabetes, cancer, heart conditions, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's, and all those many other chronic conditions we just talking about. And of course, that is assuming that that gene gets turned on.
So just because your parents or grandparents have a chronic conditions such as diabetes or Alzheimer's, it doesn't mean that you will. That the gene has to be turned on for you to have that chronic disease. Now, as for the other two parts that determine your health, most people would think that's probably exercise and diet, right?
Actually, that's what everyone thinks, and that's what you read on the internet and hear everywhere that you go. Even your doctors. They always tell you to eat better and exercise more for a healthier life, right? How many times have you heard your doctor tell you that? But those are not the only two things that govern how healthy you are. Now imagine your health as a three-legged stool, like the stool that I'm sitting on right now. You got three legs that hold up the stool, and one of those legs is your genetics. The other two legs is your digestive health, and the last leg is inflammation. Now, if any of these legs are compromised, like sawing off a leg of one of the stool, your stool or your health will crumble and you fall and you die, or technically you get sick. So your lifestyle is how you manage these three legs. What you eat, how you handle stress, how much you rest, how hydrated, and how much you move and exercise. The problem is most of the population does not know how to balance or even care about these lifestyle activities and develop chronic conditions that can in turn turn to chronic diseases in the future.
So let me visualize that as I sit on the stool, it had three legs supporting it, my genetics, my digestive system, and inflammation. If I have any of those compromised, my chair is going to fall and my health will decline. Got it? Now, you mentioned earlier that 6 out of 10 adults has a chronic condition. If it takes years for a chronic condition to develop to become a chronic disease, why aren't people being more proactive about their health? Other ways you can monitor and track their health? Other ways, other ways to monitor and track your current health to see if you may have a higher chance of developing a chronic condition. It seems the key to preventing a chronic condition is to notice symptoms and do something about it before it becomes a problem.
As a functional nutrition coach and consultant, I am very big on measuring your metrics or the performance of your body. Like a sports coach for a basketball team that measures your agility, your coordination, your balance, your speed and power to assess where you are weak on and how to help you improve those skills to be a better player. I have my own non-negotiables metabolic efficiency list on what to track for your best health.
So like when we go in for our yearly doctor's visit?
Not at all. Too many people depend on the yearly doctor's visit, and seeing your doctor just once a year is really not enough to track your health. A lot can really happen in 1 year, and depending on which metrics you track, some you may track daily, others weekly, and some monthly. These numbers become your statistics, like a basketball player tracking his skills. This is the only true way you can track which direction your health and wellness is heading. It can either get better or it can get worse. And like a professional athlete that tracks metrics down to the millisecond, we're very strict in tracking our numbers also. Our numbers are tracked for optimal health and not just for the normal range that doctors normally use.
So from my understanding, the normal range that doctors uses account for about 95% of the population, and it looks like a bell curve, starting with 3 to 5% of really healthy people going up, and then back down to the other side, the 3 3 to 5% of people that are really, really sick. Now, if you fall anywhere between this 95% range, you're considered medically normal.
That's That's correct, and that's where the problem lies. It's just too broad of a range. Think about it. It looks like this. They have to include people that are already having problems in that range so that they would be considered normal. And if your health falls outside that 95%, guess what? They have a drug for that. Also, some of the data they use to measure does not take into account of your athletic or sports ability if you're even more active.
That is so true. When I was pre-diabetic, my doctor just told me to eat better and exercise more. She didn't really explain to me what the numbers of my blood glucose were, except that they were higher and that it should be below 100. Mine during the time was like 110 to 115.
That's right. The normal range for fasting glucose is anything below 100. And that means you're good, you're normal. 100 to 125 means you're pre-diabetic, and anything over 126 means you're diabetic. They usually don't even prescribe you medicine till you're over 135, just to be sure that you're a full-blown diabetic. But they do seldom give you steps to slow down or even prevent you from becoming slightly high as a pre-diabetic to a full-blown diabetic. They just tell you there is nothing to treat you until you have diabetes.
So what are your non-negotiables that you track?
Well, right here, you'll be able to download our metabolic efficiency list here straight from our blog below or right at this link. These are my non-negotiables, regardless if you're feeling well right now or if you're facing a pandemic like the COVID-19 that we're all so worried about. There are two groups of metrics. One is for your general well-being and the other is for metabolic efficiency, or how your body performs under stress, exercise, infections, and also your body's ability to use different sources of energy for fuel to power you through your activities. Now, for your general well-being, I track your weight, your body fat percentage, your waist to hip ratio, your sleep, and your hydration. I don't track BMI like doctors do because if you're an athlete, you can actually have a higher BMI that will give doctors a false positive for obesity. Your waist to hip ratio is way more accurate in determining if you're overweight or obese. For tracking your performance, I track your blood pressure, your fasting blood glucose, your cellular inflammation, and your ketones. Tracking these metrics is sort of like how many three-pointers a basketball player can keep throwing in a row, or if you're a car fanatic, how fast your car goes from 0 to 60. These tests will tell you how metabolic efficient your body is, how well you use fat or carbohydrates as fuel, and how much inflammation is inside your cells. Now you can download my metabolic efficiency list to start tracking today right here. On the list you'll find optimal numbers, the numbers you strive to be able to have, optimal health, and the tools you need to order to track these numbers if you don't already own the tools. Stop being normal and strive to be optimal, because being normal really is just being boring. You don't want to be the rest of the 95%, right?
As a bonus during this Boosting Your Immune System series, we are giving away our free Gut Matters ebook, which will start you on the path of better digestive health, and also our informational video on how inflammation of your cells can cause or start chronic conditions and diseases. Now remember that health is like a three-legged stool, and digestive health and inflammation is two of those three legs.
Coming next in our Boosting Your Immunity series, we're going to give you tips on handling the mental and physical aspects of working at home, as most of us may be encouraged to stay at home with the shelter in place right now. We'll also dive deeper into your digestive system, inflammation, and your genetics to boost your immunity, not only for this crisis we're facing right now, but any crisis that may come up in the future, because you know there's always another crisis down the road, right?
So make sure that you click here to download the non-negotiables metabolic efficiency list to start monitoring where your state of health is at this moment, and let's work together to improving it so that we are all the healthiest people on earth. And don't forget to download our ebook, Gut Matters on Digestive Health, and watch our free video on inflammation provided here with the link. Stay tuned for the next episode about how fear and anxiety may be causing more inflammation and lowering your immune system and what you can do about it. Until next time, love what you live and live what you love.